Hey everybody, it's Nathan Rich here again. Today I want to talk to you about this great article from Bloomberg about China. It's basically saying that by China standing firm, it's being very aggressive. Xi's vow to stand tall has China on collision course with US. So already we're starting off right from the concept of, well, standing firm and standing your ground, that's very aggressive. Beijing's foreign policy turned more muscular under Xi Jinping. Approach caused tension with US, hurt perceptions of China. Even before the article starts, we already see what they're trying to say here, which is that China standing firm and kind of standing up for itself and saying, hey, you know, I'm a country, I have rights, I have privileges, I have responsibilities, I'm a full-fledged member of the world. By China doing that, that's upset people. That's causing tensions and hurting perceptions. I mean, if you perceive China as weak and pathetic, then your feelings are going to get hurt when it starts to stand up for itself, I would assume. At the last Communist Party Congress in 2017, Xi Jinping declared that China was standing tall and firm in the East. Now the US and key allies are looking to cut the world's second biggest economy down to size. I mean, these two sentences already say so much. China standing tall and firm. In what mind could that possibly be spun as being bad? This is so bizarre to me. Any country in the whole world could and should at any moment be saying, hey, we're standing tall, we're proud, and we're standing firm. We love our country. We are here, we're not going anywhere. I mean, that's every country's right. China hasn't always had the opportunity to do that. It's been quite weak in the past. And in 2017, apparently it was declared that, hey, we are standing tall and firm. We're Chinese and that's okay. So what's the problem? It's bizarre to me that this would even be in a news article. Anyway, the US and key allies are looking not to make themselves better, not to make the world better, not to make peace, not to couple with China, not to do better and form this international community, not to do any of those things. What are they looking to do? Cut the world's second biggest economy down to size. So they're looking to punish China. I mean, this is just two sentences. So obviously I can't read this whole thing to you because I could talk forever. The shift over the past 5 years gained momentum with Donald Trump's tariff war, which helped cement the perception in Washington that China was more a threat than an opportunity, a view that held firm when Joe Biden became president. Another amazing sentence. So the shift over the past 5 years. So China standing up for itself and saying, hey, I'm here and I'm online. That caused a shift in American policies where now we're saying, oh, China's a threat even more than an opportunity. And that started with Donald Trump, and Biden, a Democrat, is following suit with Donald Trump, a Republican. So in other words, both sides of American politics, if there are two sides, both magically support the exact same thing with little to no discourse in America, which is, oh, guess what? Now suddenly China's not an opportunity but a threat. Time to punish them. And it says the next 5 years look set to get more acrimonious between the globe's top powers as economic and military tensions heat up across a range of fronts, including Taiwan. Just to be clear, so far, recently, nothing has heated up in Taiwan other than the United States sending top government officials to Taiwan. And here we see again how not brainwashed and not propagandized the Americans are when it says this. In a polarized US, which is facing a range of domestic troubles and questions about its clout in the world, bipartisan support for a tougher line against China is strong. If I were to walk around in the United States with a camera, which sometimes I really think about doing, and interview people, I would bet you that not one single person out of 100 people that I interview on the street would know almost anything about modern Chinese history or have any clue about anything actually going on in China or how it even works over here. And yet, a lot of them would support this tougher line against China. And that's a very interesting thing to think about. Now, why is this happening? Hong Kong and Xinjiang, lack of transparency on COVID, partnership with Russia, and aggressive posture toward Taiwan and the South China Sea. Again, I don't want to go through every single one of these because I do this so many times. There has been a remarkable change in how Washington views the Chinese Communist Party. I don't know what that's based on or from when, because if you look throughout history, pretty much we've always viewed them the same. I mean, we were reporting on them in the 1970s, very similar to how we do now. It just was less of it. We just seem to care less about them. But how they viewed them, to me at least, looking through CIA documents and that kind of stuff, how we viewed them seems almost exactly the same. In fact, too much the same, if you ask me. Then it talks about the standing tall being a dramatic shift from Deng Xiaoping's hide and bide strategy, and basically say that Deng Xiaoping's son warned that China's government risked drawing attention to the country's rise too soon. But now it's clear that confrontation is here to stay, and moderate voices in China have been silenced in recent years. Imagine thinking that standing up as you're just saying, I'm a country and I'm here, that's not a moderate voice. This is like, am I taking crazy pills? If America said, hey, we're going to not bomb all these countries and go to wars anymore, we're just going to be proud to be ourselves, and we're not going to let you mess with us, and we're here and we're fine. Does that sound extreme to you? I don't, like, do you have to be a moderate voice to be against that? Very weird. Anyway, this article is very long, but basically it says a lot of really weird things, like saying that China is aggressive abroad, though, again, you never see a single actual example of China being aggressive to another country. Never. They never can come up with even one example. It's always like, oh, they gave a bunch of loans out to people in Africa. Oh, they politically motivatedly formed some relationship. Oh, they whatever. It's just like, what are you talking about? When you compare China's aggressiveness to other countries with the United States, for example, it's crazy. It's like standing on a mountain and complaining about a piece of dust. It's weird, really, really weird. And of course, this article just doesn't qualify that. It just says that they're aggressive. Meanwhile, China is accusing the U.S. of sticking with a Cold War mentality from the days of the Soviet Union. Yeah, basically, I don't know how you could disagree with that. I mean, that's what this article is. I'm reading a Cold War article right now. In fact, it's actually a bit worse than the Cold War articles, because during the Cold War, parts of it anyway, Russia actually had this Comintern program where it was actively trying to push out its ideology to other countries. In a way, it's more complicated than that, but basically. Whereas China, which used to do that quite a long time ago, it hasn't done that in decades. It's not about that anymore. So the idea that China is trying to take over the world or trying to expand into the world, it's just nothing. It's vaporware. There's nothing there. Wang Yi has said, the United States has framed a false narrative of democracy versus authoritarianism, identified China as the primary rival and the most serious long-term challenge, and wantonly allowed its House Speaker to visit Taiwan. False narrative of democracy versus authoritarianism, I would say that it is generally false, because the democracy in America is not all it's cracked up to be, and the authoritarianism in China is not all it's cracked up to be. They're both a lot closer to each other than people care to admit. Identifying China as the primary rival. Now here's where I break away from where you would think that I am. I do believe that China is in many ways the biggest challenge and rival to America. But having a rival doesn't mean we have to have this crazy, completely dishonest mindset where we just say things like they're internationally aggressive. It's crazy to me that we justify everything by saying that they're a rival. Taiwan is at the center of U.S.-China tensions. I kind of disagree with this a little bit. I don't really think it's at the center. I think that it's, in some ways, a red herring. It is there, and it is causing tensions. It is real. But sometimes I feel like that's just the place where tensions go. I don't really think that there's so much tension. And that's maybe for another video. But I think that the underlying issue is not Taiwan. Beijing sees the self-governing island as part of its territory, as does the United States, as does virtually every country in the entire world. But Bloomberg goes out of its way here to intentionally word it in such a way where they're telling you the truth, sort of, but they're intentionally making you believe that this is a weird, non-standard belief, when in fact, the country that Bloomberg is in, also officially agrees with this. China had already ramped up incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone months before Pelosi's visit in August prompted China to unleash unprecedented military drills and cut off talks in a range of areas. Yeah, sending over military or government officials into another country without that country's permission is quite a risky and aggressive thing to do. Taiwan is literally in China, as everyone, virtually every single human and country in the entire world agrees. Bloomberg has not explained why Bloomberg doesn't agree. And the air defense identification zone of Taiwan covers a lot of China. So this means nothing. If China wants to send the military down to Taiwan, it is legally allowed to do that, just as much as it's legally allowed to send the military to Beijing or to Chengdu or anywhere else in China. The only reason that they don't do that is because there's a bunch of people down there saying that they're going to fight in a war if that happens. Okay, so if a bunch of people in Texas take up arms and say, if the U.S. military comes here, we're going to have a war with them, does the U.S. have the right to send troops there? Yes. Should it? I don't know. There's a lot to think about there. There's a lot of issues to work out. But if the U.S. flies a jet over there, I wouldn't expect China to complain about it. Why is this okay with you? Why does this make any sense to you, Bloomberg? It's never explained. Biden has repeatedly said the U.S. would come to the democracy's aid. Notice how it says that? It doesn't say the island. It doesn't say the people down there with weapons. It doesn't say the former government of China. It doesn't say any of this stuff. It just says the democracy's aid if attacked, marking a shift in the policy of strategic ambiguity that guided U.S.-China relations for decades. Yeah, this is us slowly creeping into another Vietnam War or Korean War or any other war where we just jump in and decide that it's our business to fly across the world and get involved with civil wars of other countries. It's crazy to me that Bloomberg thinks that this is a peaceful, defensible position other than just literally neocon stuff. This is just neocon war hawk stuff. That's how I see it. Then it says, Xi has renewed calls for officials and companies to focus on making tech breakthroughs so the country can be less vulnerable to U.S. moves, but progress has been mixed. Bloomberg reported in August that Chinese officials were angry at how tens of billions of dollars funneled into the industry haven't yielded much. I don't know about that, but one of the things that happens with China when you have this population that has less foreigners in it, basically, than America, is that you have less diverse angles of attack when it comes to certain sciences and arts and that kind of stuff. So this is something that you're going to find in a lot of countries, and this is one of the reasons that America is so unique and is so uniquely qualified to do certain types of tasks, is that you have this insane amount of diversity that has its downsides, but it also has these really positive aspects as well, including technology and sciences being very easy to push because you've got the best minds of many different countries flocking there to, or at least they used to flock there, to contribute to this type of thing. So China or any country is going to have to combat with not having that situation. So it doesn't surprise me much that dumping a bunch of money into technology research in China hasn't yielded quick results. But China and Chinese people can definitely achieve good results. Maybe the beginning isn't going to be as quick as it would be if America started to do something now. But when you look at the history of these countries, you can very quickly see why. America has had a lot longer to build this up and also has that diversity factor, and it definitely incentivizes international communities to send their top players, basically. Indian billionaire so-and-so warned that as soon as I read that, I just go, okay, I don't need to read the rest of this paragraph. I mean, who cares what somebody says just because they have money? So skipping that entirely, Beijing's actions have often backfired. Chinese officials appeared caught off guard by Putin's decision to invade Ukraine just weeks after the Russian president and Xi met to affirm their no-limits friendship. I remember at the time, everybody was very angry at China because China knew everything and didn't tell anybody. But now they didn't know anything, and that looks bad for them. So no matter what, as usual, China looks bad. Either they knew and then they're bad because they didn't do anything, or they didn't know and then they're bad because they're just idiots. It's just this constant vomit coming from Bloomberg and others. They can't decide if China is so big and bad and that's why we should hate them, or if they're just incompetent idiot losers and that's why we should hate them. It doesn't really matter why. The end effect is always the same. China, despite its, quote, friendship with Russia, has been accepting various sanctions and so on. So in other words, to recap, China knew what Russia was going to do, and that's why we should hate them. And China didn't know what Russia was going to do, and that's why we should hate them. And we should hate them because they're so aligned with Russia. But also, we should hate them because being aligned with Russia is just kind of fake. And then it wraps up by saying, China still has the incentives to maintain a peaceful relationship with the US, but the terms of that relationship have shifted. China wants to reach the point where, one, it can do whatever it wants and no one has anything to say about it. No one responds in a negative way. And two, that countries, especially in the region, when they make their own decisions, they accommodate Chinese preferences. My God. So you're saying they want to be like America? Wow, that is horrible. Anyway, this type of article is crazy to me because it's just so confused. It's so propagandistic. It's so kind of pointless and rambling, and yet everything that it says is so biased and so bizarre and so oblivious to self. It's very frustrating to read this type of thing, to be honest with you. Like, subscribe, sign up for my Patreon, PayPal, Subscribe Star, YouTube members, send super chats, and tips and all that other stuff. Support these videos, support this channel. Tell me your thoughts on this. I want to hear from you guys in the comments, etc. And thanks everybody. 谢谢。